Once upon a time, in a small village surrounded by thick green forests and rolling hills, there lived a young hunter named Arjun. He was 22 years old, strong in body but broken in heart. Every morning he would wake up before the sun, pick up his old wooden bow, and walk into the forest alone. He was known in the village as a good hunter, but inside, Arjun felt like a failure. His father Rajan had been the greatest hunter in the entire region. People still told stories about Rajan. How he could track a deer for 3 days without stopping. How he never came home empty-handed. How he fed not just his own family, but the hungry neighbors too. Rajan had died 5 years ago from a fever, leaving Arjun, his mother Savitri, and his younger sister Meera behind. After Rajan died, everything fell apart. Arjun started missing hunts. He would come home with nothing and sit in the corner of the house quietly. He borrowed money from neighbors. He started telling himself that he was not like his father, that he never would be, that some people are simply born unlucky. Days turned into weeks, weeks turned into months, and months turned into 2 full years of the same sad story. Savitri never complained. She cooked whatever little they had, smiled at her children every morning, and worked her small vegetable patch behind the house with tired hands. But Arjun could see the worry in her eyes. He could see the old sari she refused to replace, the broken sandals she kept wearing, the way she ate less so that Meera could eat more. That hurt him more than anything else in the world. One evening, Arjun sat by the river at the edge of the forest. He threw a small stone into the water and watched the ripples spread out in perfect circles. He felt empty. He had tried so many times to be better. He had gone into the forest with full energy and come back with nothing. He had promised himself again and again that tomorrow would be different. But tomorrow always looked the same. He put his face in his hands and said out loud to no one, "Why can I not fix my life? What is wrong with me?" The river kept flowing. The birds kept singing. The forest did not answer him. But then something happened. A young deer walked out from between the trees and stopped right at the edge of the water, just 20 steps away from Arjun. It looked at him with calm, dark eyes. Arjun slowly reached for his bow. His hands were shaking. He pulled the string back slowly, carefully, and held his breath. He missed. The arrow flew past the deer and landed in the mud. The deer ran back into the trees. Arjun stared at the empty space where it had been. And then, for the first time in years, he did not walk home. He stood up, pulled his second arrow, and walked into the forest after it. He tracked that deer for 4 hours. Through thick bushes, across a shallow stream, up a rocky slope, and back down again. His legs ached. His eyes burned from focusing in the low light. Twice he lost the tracks and had to start again. But he did not stop. Something had changed inside him in that moment by the river. He could not explain it. He just knew that if he walked home empty, handed one more time by choice, he would never recover from it. On the 5th hour, just as the moon came up over the trees, Arjun found the deer again. His hands were steady this time. His breathing was slow. He pulled the string back with everything he had. The arrow flew true. He stood over the deer in the silver moonlight and felt something rise in his chest. Not pride exactly, but something stronger. It was the feeling of a man who refused to give up, finally seeing what he was actually made of. He carried the deer home on his shoulders. It was heavy. His back screamed with pain the whole way. But he walked faster and faster the closer he got to the village. When he pushed open the door of his home, Savitri looked up from her mat, where she was sewing in the dim lamp light. Her eyes went wide. Meera jumped up from her sleep. They both stared at the deer on Arjun's shoulders, like they were seeing something from a dream. Savitri walked to her son slowly. She put both her hands on his face and looked at him for a long moment. She did not say anything. She did not need to. Her eyes were full of tears, but she was smiling the biggest smile Arjun had ever seen on her face. He said to her, quietly, "I am sorry it took me so long, Amma. She shook her head and pulled him close. "You came back," she whispered. "That is all that matters." That night changed Arjun completely. He woke up the next morning before the sun again, but this time it was different. He did not drag himself out of bed. He rose with purpose. He went to the forest, and he hunted with everything in his body and mind. He came home with 2 rabbits. The day after that, a wild boar. The day after that, 3 ducks from the lake at the edge of the hills. The neighbors noticed. The village leader, Dharampal, called Arjun to his house one evening and offered him a regular contract to supply meat for the village festivals. It was steady income. Real money. The first real money Arjun had seen in years. He used the first payment to buy Savitri a new saree. It was simple and cotton, nothing grand, but when she held it in her hands she cried like a child. Arjun stood there watching his mother cry happy tears and felt like the richest man in the world. He used the second payment to repair the roof of their house that had been leaking for 2 rainy seasons. He used the third payment to start saving for Mira's future. But the real change was not in the money. The real change was in Arjun's mind. He stopped telling himself that he was unlucky. He stopped comparing himself to his father and feeling small. He understood something that no one had ever said to him directly, but that he had finally learned on his own, that the only moment you can fix your life is right now. Not tomorrow. Not after things get easier. Not when you feel more ready. Right now, in this moment, with whatever you have in your hands. His father Rajan had been great. That was true. But Rajan had also once been a young man who had to make his own first kill in the dark forest alone. Every great person started somewhere small. Every strong tree was once just a seed in the dirt. Arjun became known across 3 villages as a hunter of skill and character. Young boys would watch him walk into the forest and dream of being like him one day. He taught 3 of them for free, because he remembered what it felt like to be lost and have no one show you the way. Years later, when Mira got married in a beautiful ceremony full of flowers and laughter, Arjun sat beside his mother during the celebration and held her hand. "Are you happy, Alma?" he asked her. Savitri looked around at the lights, the music, the joy on her daughter's face, and then looked back at her son. "I was always happy," she said softly. "I just waited for you to be happy too." And Arjun smiled because he finally was.